Today we are going to study again properties of matter and from lesson number 2. So you have to turn to page number 18. Let's study some more properties of matter. In our previous lessons we studied that we can sometimes measure some properties of matter. Later we studied that we can observe properties of matter with our senses. For example, we saw that we can see its shape, its color, its texture. We can see these things. Okay, so there are some things we can measure with the help of some tools like temperature, like weight. There are some properties of matter that we can see or touch and feel. Okay, so we can observe it, but still there are some properties of matter that we have to test, like the property of magnetism, and the property of floating and sinking, and the property of flexibility and hardness. We have to test if they are magnetic or no. Let's see what is this. Some metals are magnetic. Now pay attention here. Metals. Some metals are magnetic. And what is magnetic? See, we all know that this is a magnet, right? And it attracts things made of some kinds of metals, not all metals. So anything which is attracted or pulled toward magnet is called magnetic. We can see some nails, they are attached to the magnet. So these nails are magnetic. And this is a magnet. Okay. An object that can be pushed or pulled by a magnet is called magnetic. So this is pulled by a magnet. So this is called magnetic. Not all objects are magnetic. Let's see some here. There are a few things given here which are magnetic, like steel paper clip or iron nail or silver spoon. Not all spoons will be attracted or pulled by magnet. These things are pulled by magnet, so these things will be called magnetic. But there are some things which are not pulled by magnet, like a plastic toy. Copper coin. Copper is still a metal, but it's not pulled by magnet or it's not attracted by magnet, so we will call it non-magnetic. Anything that is not pulled by magnet is called non-magnetic, but anything that is pulled by magnet is called magnetic. Now we come to another property of matter that we can test and check, and we cannot usually normally see it or observe it with our senses, but we have to test it whether it will float or it sink. So this property, float or sink, we have to test. Let's see. You can test if an object will sink or float. What is sink? Sink is like when you put in something in water, it goes down. We can see this stone or anything that goes down at the bottom of the water is called sink. And float means it stays up, either is totally up or maybe half up, half down. So this is called floating. So we have to test it. We don't see it, we have to test this property, that if it is floating or is it sinking. We have to put each and everything one by one in the water, and we will see how will is it floating or sinking. So an object can float if it has air inside it, or if it is light and has large surface. How do we know that some objects they float and some objects sink? Usually when there is some air inside, like we can see in this rubber duck, there is air inside it. Or sometimes when they have large surface areas, that means they cover a large area of water, and they are usually lightweight and empty from inside, they can float. But the things which are heavy and they have large, what we can say, matter, they are compact, they are dense, they usually sink down in the water. We have to check one by one. We will be doing experiment now, and we will check that which things float and which things sink. Okay, we have already studied about floating and sinking. Now we come to another property of matter that we have to test, and it's called flexibility. Anything that is able to be bent is called flexible. Let's see. You may also need to test for flexibility. Matter that has flexibility is able to bend. See, you can see so many objects here that can be bent, like a leather belt, a rubber band, leaf, any kind of fabrics, thin wires, soft plastic, and paper. These are the things that can be bent. You can bend them. And we use these things especially for special purposes where we need things to bend. Like for example, if I don't have flexible clothes, will it be easy for me to wear it? No. For example, if these things which are not flexible, rigid, let's say if I make a shirt of wood, will and it's not flexible, it's so rigid, will it be easy for me to wear? No. So we have to study and test the properties of matter to use them in the proper way, for the proper purpose. Things which are not flexible are called rigid. For example, I've got some pictures here. This is a metal nail, iron nail. It is not flexible. We cannot bend it. Like bricks, we cannot bend them. Rocks or stones. Plastic, see, this is also plastic. This is also plastic. But this plastic is soft and flexible. Not soft, it is flexible. It can be bent. But this plastic is not flexible. It is rigid. It's hard. We cannot bend it. Similarly, you can see this leaves and we have a soft stick here. It can be bent, but when it comes to wood, like if it's a branch of it's a small branch of tree, it is able to bend, so it's flexible. But when it comes to the tree trunk or the wood piece, it is hard, it's rigid, it cannot be bent. Even here we can see it's metal and this is also metal, but this is flexible and this is not flexible. It cannot be bent. This one can be bent. Here we can see a glass made of glass, and glass is not flexible, so it is rigid. And why do we study flexible and rigid? Just to see which material is suitable for what kind of purpose. Like things which we want to wear, we have to be using flexible. But there are still some things which we need to be rigid, like if we are building a house, we don't need things which are flexible. If I'll make things a house out of flexible things, it will fall down. But on the other hand, if I make things like with rigid things, like for example, I make my dress or something, it will be not comfortable for me. I cannot wear a dress of wood or dress of brick, right? So we have to choose the correct um object by studying their properties to use in the proper purpose. Let's see what's hardness. If an object can scratch another object, then it is harder than the other object. When we rub any object with any other object, if it scratches, it's so hard. Hardness is a property that tells how hard or solid an object is as compared to the other objects. So we can compare two objects. For example, let's say we take example of an eraser and a pencil. An eraser is hard and a pencil is hard too, but pencil is harder than eraser. So we have to study how much hard an object is. Why? Because see, is flexibility a property of building block? Why or why not? We have to study, but for example, if we are making a building block, we have to build something. Should we be using flexible objects? No, I don't think so. Flexible objects are suitable for building using as a building block. Because why? Because if something is flexible, it cannot hold, it will fall down. It cannot become a strong structure. To build something, we need strong and rigid objects. Now we have come to the end of the lesson. We studied today three important properties of matter. One was floating and sinking, another was magnetism, and the third was flexibility or hardness or rigidity. So for homework, what you have to go to do, you have to take things around from your house. You have to collect something and you have to sort them if they sink or they float. Okay, I'll show you exactly how you have to do that. Just the same way you sorted the floating and sinking objects, similarly you have to take a magnet and collect some things around from your house. You can take plastic, you can take paper, fabric, you can take pins, you can take ruler, you can take whatever you want things around, and you have to check with magnet and sort these things whether they are magnetic or no. For all of these activities, I am going to give you 3 activities today. For all of these activities, you can either send me the picture, finally whatever you have sorted, or you can send me a video. It's up to you, whatever is easy for you. For the third activity, you have to sort the things as flexible or rigid. You have to check things around at home and you have to bend it and then test it. If it bends, it will go in flexible. If it doesn't bend, it doesn't turn, if you hold in your hand, it's so hard, so it will go in the rigid. Fine.